All right, now we shall start the second panel, which is on military populism in comparative perspective. So let's begin with the first paper. I think everyone is ready to go. Can you start by introducing yourselves and then move on to your paper, please?
Okay, hello everyone. My name
Yes.
Ahalla Tsauro. Together with my partner Azhar Syahida and Hasnan Bachtiar was there. So we started now. Okay. Azhar, you ready? Okay. Um, okay, hello everyone, the fellow panelists and also participants. Today, Hasnan, Azhar, and I will deliver our project titled "The Making of a People General: Military Populism in the Discursive Legacy of Soedirman in Indonesia." So, in short, Soedirman is a national hero. He was a military leader back in the day of the um, pre-independence of Indonesia during the war. And today we will talk about his leadership and also people under pressure and an idea with a sharp edge of military populism. So we ask a simple question: how did the General Sudirman become a more than a commander? How did he become a people general? And by the end, we hope that you'll hear the people voice in his story that we narrated in the slides. And you'll see how that voices still shape the way Indonesia talk about power, duty, and a nation. And our research explores Sudirman through the lens of military populism, starting for as an introduction. So we trace how his image, the image of Sudirman, was made and remade, not only by battles and dates, but by discourse on, including the speeches, rituals, ceremonies, textbooks, and so on and so forth. So we argue that Sudirman was not only a military leader, he symbolized a people will, as he worked with more with people, and his authority rose from collective suffering with people and the idea of anti-elite and anti-colonial, and from the popular will of or what we call as a volonté générale. In other words, we study how the people spoke through him and how institutions learned to speak in his name. So earlier in our discussion, we listened to a presentation by Nicholas, who did mention on the conceptual paper by Yilmaz et al. And at the beginning of our panel, of our speak today conference, as it frames a military bureaucratic populism into two categories: exogenous capture and endogenous capture. But today we try to attempt to add an alternative category, which is called the pure embodiment of military populism. So in this case, we ground this in Sudirman leadership of Tentara Keamanan Rakyat, or the People Security Army, as he united soldiers and also civilians, and he turned pain into purpose and purpose into order. That unity and the words around it is the core of the evidence. So next, please. So our discussion is also cover mainly on the military populism, as we as we draw the theoretical perspective from this point, as Ernesto Cloclo says that populism is the people's struggle against an oppressive elite, and the engine of what happened in that time during the Sudirman time is the repeated hardships that people experienced during that time. Pain and loss built what we called as equivalential change, the common language of resistance, as many grievance link into a single us. So from that us, quote unquote, comes solidarity, hope, and oppositional identity. A leader then emerges. This leader then embodies the people demands and articulates their message. Now we add the uniform of the military. When the military stops speaking only as a guardian of a society and speaks as the moral voice of the people, we get the military populism. So, so next slide, please. Um, so, in the discussion of Sudirman as a man of people, we would like to address who is he, what was he like. So we drawing from the idea by the historian and political scientist Ben Anderson, who described him as a man of calm asceticism and a quiet warmth, gentle in manner and iron in purpose, a simple style that hid a fierce will for the people and the nation. And from this, we quoted some really important uh, quotations of Sudirman. Uh, Let me read here. This freedom is ours, and we will never lose it to anyone. Let us show that we really love liberty and can rule and govern our own state. So it's a short sentence, no hedging, and people at the center, and the inimical others like colonizer, oppressor, opportunities is clearly outside. So he makes a different box from this point, from this statement. So this voice, to some extent, fits a Locke model, as it names the people, it marks the adversary, and it binds pain to purpose. Next, please. As we did mention on the inimical elite, as we deliver here as a politician and a Dutch during that time, so it's clear that Sudirman draws two lines at once. First, an origin, as he say that the army was born to our people's struggle for freedom, as the military is of the people, not above them. And the second is on duty, as the army defends sovereignty and security. It must keep discipline, obey command, and avoid being a tool of any faction. It must work with groups outside the barrack because the nation cannot be defended by the army alone. So here's the balance. He resists elite capture and foreign domination. He rejects factional politics. And yet he affirms obedience to the constitutional order. Populist ethic meets republican duty, and people facing inimical others, colonial forces from outside, and the traitors or narrow elites from within, as articulated through a discipline of force. I think that's my part. For the next slide will be Azhar.
Thank you, Ahalla. Just to continue. So, hello everyone, it's good to see you. To understand the people's grievances in the context of Sudirman, the foundation is suffering. So Sudirman warned it, do not be dismayed by pain. As we near the goal, the child will grow. And there is a story, one of his colleague, TB Simatupang, is one of the elite in military group at the time. He visited Sudirman's house a day before the Dutch military advance in 18 December 1948. He saw that Sudirman had been bedridden for months because of severe illness in his lung. And he thought that a Dutch attack would be madness, and he sensed it would come. And on that same day, he reassumed command from his bed. He had taken the command into his hands again, despite his severe illness. So it was partly a symbol, strategy, and fully articulations of the people's will. And then came 19 December 1948, and the order was clear: all armed forces shall carry out the established plan to face the Dutch military advance. In a radio address, he spoke of truth against brutality, and Soedirman said, truth must be dealt with and dealt with by truth. So here is Laclau's populist reason in action, and the people's demand becomes change, survival, dignity, and sovereignty. So from his legacy, we can see that there are two logic structure of legacy from Sudirman. The first one is the unity over small quarrels, set aside minor disputes, and join government and people in one front against the larger threat. And this is the equivalential chain at work. Second one, obedience to the Republic's decision. So Sudirman affirmed the ceasefire when the government did. The army remained loyal and disciplined. So here the picture is pretty clear that on one hand, there was moral populism, and on the other hand, there was institutional obedience. And the people's voice meets constitutional order, and that is the distinctive military populist articulation in Sudirman's sense. And to conclude this a short paper, there are 3 points. First, based on the available records concerning Sudirman, we found that Sudirman fought so that justice, freedom, and prosperity would belong to the many, large population of Indonesia, not the few, including the elite in Indonesian elite. And this was a pretty clear evidence during the 1948-1949. And the second one, the General Sudirman emphasized that the survival of the people was the primary objective of the Indonesian independence. And the third, he organized the armed forces to protect Indonesians from Dutch and Japanese militaries and from inimical elites at home. So for him, protection was not just only a strategy, it was also a moral duty. From this, we conclude that Sudirman was a genuine people's general. In Laclau's term, he stood with the people against the oppressive elite, not as a theater, but as lived sacrifice. So what's the contribution for the military populism discourse? So from him, we can see that military populism is not just about uniform, it's also discourse, how institution speaks the people, name the adversary, and bind memory and legitimacy. And from the category exogenous capture, endogenous discourse, it gives language for this, and it helps us to test the claim and ask when does moral voice steady a democracy and when does it stretch its limit. And to study him, Sudirman, is to study how nations speak themselves into being and how the people facing inimical order for either foreign or domestic keep their voice at the center. Lastly, this is just a short reflection from General Sudirman. It's because he is a highly respected figure in Indonesia. So in the historiography of Indonesia's political landscape, under Sukarno, the first president, under Suharto, the second president, and after Reformasi, it was literally after the Asian financial crisis in 1948. Sudirman's image traveled through these periods. Under Sukarno, he embodied the revolutionary soul of the army. And then under Suharto, he was used to justify the doctrine of dual role for the military in security and politics. And after the Reformasi, after the financial crisis, it's more on moral compass. So across this shift, his name became a discursive course. It helped the military claim the virtues of discipline and self-sacrifice. It set military apart from the self-interest in civilian politics. And you might agree or disagree with this claim, but the pattern is clear. His legacy speaks and institution borrow that voice. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for such an interesting presentation, and one that gave us such a contrast, I think, to the other presentations, partly because of the use of Laclau's approach, but also well, maybe I'll save my comments and questions for the end because I've been writing down some because I found that extremely interesting. So, Omer, I think it's time for you to come up here and speak. Omer, of course, is a PhD student here. Please come to the lectern.
Okay. Don't disturb.
How do you open that?
On this one.
How do you open this? No, not this.
Oh, not this one.
Go down.
Ah.
Yeah. Thank you, Nick, for introducing me. That was a wonderful introduction. I was hoping that you would introduce me in French, but English is fine. So my paper discusses or does a comparative analysis of England, Pakistan, and Thailand to understand military populism as as an endogenous bureaucratic discourse. We have seen Egypt, Pakistan prop up in the context of populism studies in extant literature, but Thailand as a case hardly ever props up. And this is despite the fact that we see Thailand's military being so powerful. It ruled the country from 2014 onwards until 2023. Its judiciary, for example, just recently removed a sitting prime minister. Thaksin Shinawatra was jailed for 1 year. So so beside Egypt and Pakistan, personally, I was most excited of analyzing Thailand within the context of military populism. So yeah, populism studies have traditionally focused on leaders and movements and not institutions. And I've thought about this point a lot, especially for my PhD and this paper as well. And it's not written for the sake of it. I think the extant literature thinks or analyzes or conceptualizes that due to the fact that militaries or institutions cannot mobilize, thus they cannot be populist. And some of these institutions are themselves conceptualized or thought of as part of the elite. So, for example, the Pakistani military is called the establishment in Pakistan. But these populist scholars like Muda and others, what they're doing in their own papers is that they're looking at the discourse and on the basis of that discourse saying that this political party or that political party or this political leader or that political leader is populist. But they sort of neglect the discourses of militaries, judiciaries, which, according to my own research during the PhD and this paper as well, shows that militaries do exhibit or employ populism. So this paper as such shifts attention to militaries as populist actors and focuses on Egypt, Pakistan, and Thailand, which is something I've already mentioned. All these three countries have had a great influence of military in their contexts. Pakistan has had 4 coups. Thailand's military was ruling the country until 2023, just two years ago, and Sisi, as a former general, now runs Egypt. The main research question of the presentation is to what extent do militaries as bureaucratic institutions articulate an endogenous populist discourse across national contexts? The theoretical framework is quite simple. It was mentioned during the keynote speech. We worked on it. It uses the Yilmaz and others' idea of bureaucratic populism, which has 2 faces: the exogenous capture, populist leaders politicize institutions or try to capture them or try to use them to their own advantage, or the endogenous discourse where these populist where these institutions themselves exhibit or employ populism through discourse. So yeah, present study focuses on the endogenous variant. The main arguments and claims that are made during this presentation are that military populism is a subset. It should not, perhaps this is a mistake, I should not be calling it a subset, but it falls within the same paradigm of bureaucratic populism, and it has a sufficiently prominent endogenous face. Each military articulates populism, but does so in a distinctively in a distinctive way through their own national moral logic. And third, populism can persist without leaders or elections, institutionalized through bureaucratic morality or through, among other things. Right. So the methodology is a comparative and computational approach. So I'm a properly qualitative person, and I've not used quantitative methods ever, perhaps in my research, but this is the first time I tried doing it. So the main methodology is a comparative case study, and the method is a computational discourse analysis. So it's a discourse analysis, but with the use of computational dictionaries and with the use of computers. I used 15 documents, 5 per country, and this is something I could increase as I finally finished this paper. So it's speeches, communications, press releases, 5 per country across these 3 countries. I developed 6 keyword dictionaries. 6 keyword dictionaries were developed and applied in Python to quantify term frequencies per 1,000 words across 15 texts. And these 6 categories were people, elite, guardian, sacral, unity, identity, and others, threat. So for people, we had like mentions to the Egyptian people, Thai people, Pakistani people, elite, corruption, words such as that, guardian, protection, safety, sacral, Islam, Buddhism. So all these words made up the dictionaries that I use. So it's a quantitative research from a methods point of view, but from an analytical point of view, I tried using an interpretivist design as well, because I am positivist, and I wanted to bring that into the equation as well, if that makes sense and if that is not a contradiction. But yeah, so it's a quantitative methodology largely, but with an interpretive design where I tried using some quotations within my paper as well. So yeah, so here we have the findings. The first findings are for the people and the elite. Here we can see that for people, Egypt had the most references to the people with 14 and a half references per 1,000 words. And there were a lot of mentions to the great Egyptian people by Sisi, by army in their own texts. And then within Pakistan had a much lower but a sufficiently prominent reference or mentions to the people as well, with a score of around about 7.58. And for Thailand, it was the second highest, and with a score of around 10. For elite, it was Thailand which topped the 3 countries with 1.2 references out of per 1,000 words. Then Pakistan with around 1, and Egypt had less than 1. But you can see in comparison to people that how elites have a very few mentions, ranging from 0.6 till 1.2, and this is something I would mention later as well. So guardian and sacral. For guardian, Egypt was at around 12. Thailand is at 13 mentions per 1,000 words, and Pakistan is way below at around 4.5. The Thai military, especially during this time, 2014 till 2023, showed itself as protecting the Thai community or the or Thailand from chaos, from corruption. Egypt did the same, especially since Sisi took over, he positioned the army and his office as well as protecting the people from various dangers. And Pakistani army, on the other hand, although it used guardianist logic, but it was done in a very restrained manner, showcasing professionalism, resilience, as opposed to outright guardianism. When it comes to sacred or religious references, Egypt topped the list, with the Egyptian military making a lot of references to Allah, God, a lot of inshallahs, alhamdulillahs, and all of that. And Pakistan was second again, because I think Pakistani army within the text tried to show a much more professional face, and Thailand, being a Buddhist country, had very few mentions to Buddhism or religion as a whole, with their score being at little over 1. Right. So now we have unity, identity, and others threat. For that, Thailand topped unity identity with a score of more than 10. And within the text, we could have seen that how Thai's military's main idea or their main logic is unity among the Thai people, or the Thai military protecting Thainess as a whole. Egypt was second with 5. It espoused unity, but at a way less level than Thailand. And Pakistan was at a 2, showing a very bureaucratized language as opposed to very populist. Others threat were not at all mentioned. Like, no, I wouldn't say not at all, were seldom mentioned in the text of the Thai military, but they were mentioned quite a few times within Egypt and Pakistan, with Egypt topping this list, right? So if we do a cross-country patterns in military populist discourse, we can see all 3 militaries employ moralized populist vocabularies, but with different emphasis. Egypt blends sacred and guardian themes. Divine national salvation narrative is part of it. Thailand stresses unity and loyalty, monarchic and monarchic cultural populism based on this idea of Thainess. Pakistan projects bureaucratic moralism based on discipline, professionalism, and resilience. We saw that guardian and people categories dominate across cases. Militaries frame themselves as the protector of the nation, and elite antagonism is minimal. It's legitimacy through virtue and not necessarily opposition within these cases. Together, these patterns evidence endogenous bureaucratic populist discourse produced within military institutions rather than by non-military based charismatic leaders. Right. So for the final table, I did a very small comparative populism intensity, where I took all the 6 categories and divided all the 6 categories for each, and divided them by 6, giving Egypt the highest populism intensity with a score of 7.05, then Thailand with 6.14, and Pakistan with 3.93. So yeah, Egypt had the strongest presence of moral populist language. Thailand sustained but balanced, sustained moderately high populist language, which is quite balanced. Pakistan had the lowest, comparatively restrained, but still it was there through the use of religion, through the use of references to the people, etc. All in all, this shows that there is a steady endogenous discourse across all countries, but which is less than charismatic leaders or party-based actors. So some of the studies that I looked at had scores of 10 till 20 for leaders like Erdogan, had a score of 10, 15 per 1,000 words. Netanyahu had a score of 18, 19, in some studies over 1,000 words. So this score is way less than those charismatic leaders, but it's still there showcasing or showing that endogenous discourse within militaries exist, and confirms the findings of Yilmaz and others. Yeah, so the conclusion is this: confirms the presence of endogenous bureaucratic discourse in militaries, steady and modularized discourse, less intense than that of charismatic leaders, demonstrates variation across national contexts, secular national in Egypt, bureaucratic modalist in Pakistan, and loyalist unity in Thailand, shows that populist legitimation does not necessarily require mass mobilization or personalistic leadership. It can be sustained institutionally through discourse. Future research should expand to other similar national contexts and different institutions. Yeah, with that, I rest my presentation. Thank you so much. Who's this? Oh, yeah, that's one.
Try again.
Sorry?
Try again.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Omer. Now we shall have Wasisto Raharjo Jati, who is a researcher at the Center for Politics in Indonesia's National Research and Innovation Agency in Jakarta, speaking.
Okay. Thank you, convener, for the opportunity to speak. Before I begin, let me share my screen first. Could you see all my slides on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So in this presentation, I would like to present my paper that highlight how current President Indonesia, Prabowo Subianto, use military to strengthen his populist policy and also administration for the next 5 years. For the methodology, I use documentary and policy analysis that highlight some publication and also some document that relevant with the Prabowo policy right now. So there are 3 points I would like to underline for this presentation. So why Prabowo Subianto use populist jargon and how its implication to Indonesian democracy. So the first one, as you can see on the screen, that the victory of Prabowo in the last election show how the military could return in the civilian matters. So for most of analysis argue that the Prabowo Subianto victory seems to be a reverse of the post-reformasi agenda, especially how to separate military from politics. And the second one, after being elected and sworn in as the president, Prabowo used some, maybe most of military personnel into civilian roles, especially how to support his populist initiative as he promised in the last campaign. For example, free meal and also food self-sufficiency program. And it also has an implication, especially how to make military to be a professional armed forces, especially how the increasing use of military can hurt the professionalism and defense status. And that's why this also make how the more non-combat tests can also make the military capacity to strengthen defense and also security can be weak. So that's my 3 points to be highlighted. For the conceptual framework, I use 3 paradigms. As you can see on the screen, the first one, I use military populist governance, especially how populist leaders use military structure. to enforce policies and bypassing civilian bureaucracy. And the second one, the bureaucratic populism, how the military use populist discourse to legitimize authority. And lastly, so I took an example of the latest revise of the Indonesian armed force law that broadens military roles in the non-combat duties and increase the number of military officers in the civilian government job. So that's the 3 points that I want to be main framework in this paper. So how Prabowo use military to support his populist policy. So as I mentioned earlier, there are 3 points here. The first one is free nutritious meal. So currently, military personnel heavily involved in the distribution and supervision of free nutritious meal across the school. So Prabowo deploy most of the military troops to supervise how to distribute meals, how to supervise meals, and make sure that it deliver properly to the school. So that's the first military job. The second one is the food self-sufficiency. So to support free nutritious meal, Prabowo also set up some battalions or some additional troops to be a farmer, especially to be deployed in the agriculture production and land management. So it also has an additional job as to make sure that illegal palm oil plantation can be erased. So that's the second point. The third point is the territorial development. So alongside with the food populist policy, Prabowo also set up certain territorial brigade to support rural development and also food cultivation program. So as you can see on the screen, so this is a military officer that check the rice logistic in the state warehouse in Java. So that's the explanation of the picture. And then, so how military respond Prabowo populist policy. So as you can see on the screen, so this is the current Commander-in-Chief of Indonesian Armed Force, General Agus Subianto. So he made up, or maybe he revised the past 10E dual function doctrine that previously the armed forces actively in the social and political affairs, but he proposed a multifunction doctrine that allow Indonesian armed forces to take more jobs instead of defense and security. So he also proposed that military personnel could also work in civilian roles when required. But in reality, many or maybe some civilian jobs in national and provincial level, there are some indication that some military fill in the position. And according to the latest Indonesian Armed Forces law, now military also handles some job that should be domain of the civilians, such as cyber defense, local authority support, and also infrastructure security. So this is the initial implementation of multifunction doctrine that replaced previous dual function in the Suharto era. And how we can see Prabowo expand military to support his populist policy. So as you can see on the screen, there are many expansion of military personnel in this context. So basically, Prabowo underline the territorial development of the army, especially increasing military commands, and then also he set up some military establishments such as a Navy commands and Air Force command. And also he also make some new battalion, especially from special forces, like Army Special Forces or Kopassus, and then Air Force Commandos, and also some Marine Infantry Battalion. And to support the expansion of military troops, he also increased the military budget that previously just 166 and now to be 247 trillion rupiah. And most of the budget spending, especially, is being spent to fund some territorial development unit, as I mentioned earlier. So there are 100 battalions and 20 brigades to support rural development and food security. And lastly, there are some military officers in the civilian roles, especially in the cabinet, such as Inspector General, Director General, and also Commissioner in Ministry and state-owned enterprises. So on the screen, you can see this is the Lieutenant Colonel Teddy Indrawijaya, the current cabinet secretary that previously he is the ID-in-chief Prabowo during Prabowo as the Minister of Defense during Jokowi period. So Teddy is the one of example how military officer can fill in the civilian job, especially in the cabinet level. So how the implication about the active military engagement to support Prabowo policies. So there are 3 points I mentioned here. The first one is the expansion of military influence, especially in some ministry, such as Ministry of Finance, Agriculture, Transportation, and also some agencies that now occupied by high-ranking officer. And surely the expansion of military influence to support Prabowo policies can challenge the democratic norms, especially how the past trauma can be revived during Prabowo populist government. And also the potential risk, the erosion of military professional can be appear due to public concern about militarization of government. Sorry. To conclude my presentation, there are 3 points here. So the presidency of Prabowo especially highlight the return of military populist leadership in Indonesia that marked by significant military involvement. The second one is the loyalty and hierarchy are prioritized over civilian technocracy in the Prabowo period. So that's the main point why Prabowo deploy more military than civilian politician. And the third one, the increased military involvement could shift the resources and focus, especially how now military more actively in civilian rather than doing their job in the defense and security duties. I think that's all for me. Thank you so much, and looking forward to receiving comment and feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I think Omer and Hasnan, the next presentation, okay, so we'll skip over the next one. We can't unfortunately be here. So can we have Faiza Idris and Muhammad Rizwan? Faiza is an independent researcher from Pakistan who was previously university lecturer at Fatima Jinnah Women University, and Muhammad Rizwan is a PhD candidate here at Deakin. If you're ready to speak a little early, that would be wonderful. I'll let you come around here.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. The topic of my presentation today is hybrid regime and populist leaders, a case study of Imran Khan's trajectory from parliament to prison. I am the people, the mob, the crowd, the mass. Do you know that all the great work of the world is done through me? I am the working man, the inventor, the maker of the world's food and clothes. I am the audience that witnesses history. The Napoleons come from me and the Lincolns, they die. I am the people, the mob. So the outline of the presentation today will be defining the key concepts of hybrid regime and populism. Then we will understand populism in the Pakistani context by describing the waves of populism in Pakistan, populism within a hybrid regime, Imran Khan's trajectory from populism to prison, from parliament to prison, and then future trajectory of Imran Khan's populism. So people of Pakistan have lived most of their decades under the shadows of martial law, emergencies, debris of abrogated constitutions, judiciary with eroded authority, confused leaderships, and hybrid regimes. Pakistan is witnessing the rise of populism as a key factor in its political dynamics today. The study examines how populism and the idea of a hybrid regime interact. The research aims to determine whether these ideas are complementing one another or causing tensions in the context of Pakistan. So, to understand populism in the Pakistani context, this research aims to view populism in form of waves. The authors have categorized populism in Pakistan into three waves, each rooted in its us versus them logic and using direct mobilization and identity appeal. Each wave impacted societal cohesiveness, divided the society into the corrupt elite and the pure people in their unique way. For instance, industrialists versus workers, religious versus westernized, and corrupt versus corrupted. Political leaders or populist leaders try to exercise populism in their own way as per their own political doctrines and agendas. The first wave of populism in Pakistan was from Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. It was a left-wing populism in 1970s. As a voice of people, he raised the slogan of Roti, Kapda and Makan, which is bread, clothing and shelter. He was a charismatic orator. He electrified crowds with emotional speeches in Urdu, which is national language of Pakistan. He had an anti-elite rhetoric. He cast himself as a leader of the poor against feudal and military elite, though he himself was a feudal. So he created a people's image like wearing open collar shirts and national dress to appear one of the masses. He mobilized large rallies, blending politics with performance. He introduced the left-wing populism. He mixed socialism with nationalism to attract the workers. He had a mass emotional appeal. He used simplicity, directness, and bad manners as his political style. And he set the populist tone for future Pakistani populists. So in case of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, populism was a political style as Harriman describes in The Artistry of Power that political style means speech, gestures, pattern, and decor. In terms of political style, the three features of populism are appeal to the people, bad manners, crisis, breakdown, or threat. The style relies on directness and simplicity in languages and slangs that he used. Bhutto exemplified these features when he appeared in public wearing national dress with open sleeves and collars to demonstrate the workers that he is one of them. He was a loud and a passionate orator. Bhutto proved in his own style that he was a populist leader. For example, he once tore pages of United Nations Security Council documents and walked out of the meeting accusing it of legalizing aggression to signal the world how bold and blunt he was. He embodied the bad manners feature of a populist leader as described by Harriman and Benjamin Moffat. The second wave of populism in Pakistan was from Ziaul Haq. Ziaul Haq was not actually himself a populist leader, but he implemented Islamization as a populist policy. He used Islamization to legitimize his military rule. He promised a return to true Islamic value by moral revivalism. He appealed masses through religious sentiments. He blended holiness with authoritarian governance. He was popular yet polarizing because Islamization gained support but deepened the social divide in the Pakistani society. According to Moffat, populism seeks to create a crisis or draws its energy from the sense of crisis, breakdown, or threat. Zia used the excuse of decline of Islam in Pakistan to successfully advance his populism. His quest for Islamic State was widely supported. The populist agenda of Islamization strengthened during the wave of populism. This wave of populism is still relevant in the context of Pakistan. It not only exists in the state approach in dealing with fundamentalists, but it is also apparent in the public behavior in Pakistan today. When masses hail Mumtaz Qadri and greet him with rose petals, when Musharraf is labeled as infidel for allowing military crackdown on Lal Masjid, when religious seminaries are run without proper registration and are still flooded with students. The aftermath of this wave of populism gave rise to extremist tendencies in Pakistan that continue to thrive even in 2025. This can be evidenced by a recent incident in which thousands of young candidates applied for jobs in an intelligence agency. The application questionnaire included a revealing question: was the Mumtaz Qadri's killing of Governor Salman Taseer justified? And alarmingly, 95% of applicants gave the response absolutely justified. Third wave of populism in Pakistan is by Imran Khan. Imran Khan's charismatic populism, he uh, framed himself as the voice of the common man. His populism clashed and coexisted with Pakistani political and power elites. He mobilized a new generation through digital activism. He fought corruption under the banner of justice, which was his moral crusade. And his populism was a cultural fusion that merged Islamic values with modern media savvy appeal. His populism was also apparent in his performance, like rallies, hashtag, and charisma became his political tools. So PTI rallies were a unique experience for many because these gatherings build a direct connection between Imran Khan and the people. His organizational and communication skills were roaring during the 2014 Azadi March, which spanned rallies nationwide and a mass sit-in in Islamabad. His apparent aim was to unmask corruption. When Khan's contemporary populism was also revealed in the fashion of Pakistan, with followers dressing in PTA related clothing, posting memes, and using his appearance as a political message. Khan rose to prominence in both in the real and online world. And now we will see the Imran Khan's trajectory from parliament to prison. What caused his imprisonment? First of all, the democratic awakening, ideological populism. In 2018, voting turnout reflected that people believed in change, in tabdili, which was a moral struggle for of pure people against the corrupt elite. Khan's rallies and digital campaign drew millions of first-time voters aged 18 to 25 in the 2018 general elections in Pakistan. Once empowered by the establishment, his populism turned confrontational against military dominance, and he turned from reformist to a rebel. Even behind bar, Khan's populist appeal endures, showing that in Pakistan's hybrid regime, populism survives beyond power. So in this paper, we first explored the concept of hybrid regime, then examined the phenomena of populism, analyzing it as a political style, strategy, and agenda. A review of theoretical literature revealed that most scholars adopt a critical stance towards populism, often portraying it as a destabilizing force within democratic systems. When viewed through the lens of Pakistani political context, the trajectory of populism unfolds differently across the distant waves. For example, the latest waves embodied in Imran Khan's populist movement did not emerge as an entirely negative phenomena. While his politics did generate polarization, it simultaneously inspired political awareness among the youth and strengthened a sense of nationalism that had long remained dormant in Pakistani context. His populism transferred political participation from passive observation to active engagement. He also challenged the so-called sacred cows of Pakistan's political order. Yet the study suggests that when populism and hybrid power collide, it is often the hybrid regime that prevails. Thank you so much.
Well, we have quite a bit of time now, I think, for Q&A. So perhaps I could begin if I can be so bold. Sorry?
To my presentation.
Just for your,
No, the question.
the question, I do have a question for you. I have a question for, actually, I think I have a question for the presenters of and Hasnan of the first paper, and also this very interesting one here, because both of them speak, in the first case, to a populism that might be considered positive or good, and something a bit more mixed with Imran Khan, where there's a positive side to it and a negative. We're so used to hearing about the negative aspects of populism, particularly from researchers who look at Europe and to some degree, some, but not all, who look at Latin America and other places in North America. So I wondered, perhaps we can start with the two presenters of the final paper. Can you elaborate on what good, if I may ask, was in Imran Khan's populism? Did it bring something positive? Was it democratizing, or was it really a negative thing in the end? What would you?
Actually, what I have found in his populism is the sense of awakening in the masses of Pakistan. For instance, in a country like Pakistan, where democracy is not observed, the kids, they are not aware of the importance of democracy. It is not taught in school curriculums. It is not seen anywhere in Pakistani society. So for people of Pakistan, when a kid went to year 12, his only aim was to become a doctor or to become a lawyer or to become an engineer. He had no interest in what is happening in politics, what is the parliament, what is the Senate, because they used to think that, oh, these things are for our parents to understand. But Imran Khan was the person who brought an 18-year-old out of his home to cast a vote. So I was also a presiding officer in the general elections in Pakistan in 2018. And in our district in Pakistan, where first time we observed that young people came out of their homes to vote. So for us, so I think I am the first, I am myself is the primary data to quote that Imran Khan is the person who brought people out of there, because in Pakistan, election meant a holiday. Let's sit at home and watch movies. But he was the one who brought people to the polling stations. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely fascinating. And I wonder if I can now turn a similar question and get I don't know if Hasnan would like to elaborate. Is your paper, do you consider this a case of purely positive populism? And can you elaborate on that? And what does that, well, we'll let you elaborate on that, and then maybe I'll ask a follow-up question, and then I'll hand it over to everyone else.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you for the questions. In the case of Soedirman, that was the formation period of Indonesian military. It's kind of the time of building the foundation. So although Soedirman was part of the elite and himself was a civil commander of the military, but he rooted in the people's general will. Why? Because to struggle for the people, and at the same time was a struggle for the freedom of the state and the nations, primarily from the interference of the colonial powers, the Dutch and its allies. In one of the historical episodes, the people did vote for Soedirman. It's very interesting episode. To be proposed to become the people's general to Sukarno. So it's the proposal was coming from the people. That's not from the high rank military forces. He was coming from the people in the sense of a bottom-up movement, and he was born from the culminations of the equivalential change, people's grievances, multiple sufferings because of colonialism, and demands the people's freedom and the state's independence. That's why he was not capturing, not hijacking the military institution to serve the people's political end, and also he was not politician who had instrumentalized populist narratives to gain his personal pragmatism within the military. This is like the representative of classical populism in a way of military populism. My additional comment is that the model of military institution that at the time was the people's army. So that's tentara rakyat, or tentara keamanan rakyat, as a fusion of guardianist sense of military and populist discourse articulation. So for the next Indonesian leaderships, for example, the leaders and state, military institution, tend to use Sudirman's populist narratives as the justification to capturing the bureaucracy for their own interests. So this shows the manifestations of bureaucratic or military populism in its endogenous form. This based on your conceptual paper. So in other words, the military is the instrument of the power sustenance for both high-rank military forces and politicians, as Wasisto presented. Okay, thank you.
Ihsan, yes, please.
I have a question for Omar. Thank you for the good effort. Oh, sorry. I have a question for Omar. Thank you for the good effort. I am very pleased. You search for some, this is a methodology question. You search for some terms and concepts, right? Elite, guardian, sacral. Were you just looking for these exact terms or their synonyms first? Or what about themes? So maybe the exact term was not there, even its synonym wasn't there, but maybe as a concept, as a theme, it was in the sentences or even between the lines. Were you also looking for those? And the second one, populism intensity score. Yeah, I liked it. I am wondering if there is such a thing, or this is your innovation. If that's your innovation, that's good. So you were looking, okay. So how does it then, if others did it? Sorry for my ignorance. So Nick knows these things better than I do. I rely on him mostly. So anyway, so how does your findings compare to the others in the literature? And one last thing, it's not a question, a suggestion. It would be great to look at the changes over time within a single country. I think I missed which time period you looked at. I don't know. I'm sure it was on the presentation, but I missed. So, for instance, for Egypt, if it is after the coup, that's normal to have this polarization, more hostile, right? So it was a little bit tense there, even in the Pakistani case. So I am wondering, maybe if you didn't cover those periods, a kind of comparison of 3 periods within a country when everything was peaceful, there wasn't a coup or any tension in the country. So what kind of populism or intensity this country head or this institution, a kind of a long-term analysis would help you. Not for this paper, you don't have to do it, maybe another project. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ihsan, for your questions. I'll start with the last suggestion that you mentioned. It's a very good suggestion, and I would definitely work on it. My paper was looking at the time period from 2014 till 23, primarily because both CC and General Prayut of Thailand, they seized power in 14. So that seemed like a good time. And so, yeah, within the time period, a lot of things, of course, happened with regard to other things, especially in Pakistan, in Thailand as well. Protests, violence, periods of peace. So it would be very good to look at how these intensities changed over time. Your second point was on the populism intensity score. I termed it as such, populism intensity. It's just word frequencies, like an average of it, over the 6 categories and over 1,000 words. Some people have done it. I did not find a lot of studies like this, but I found for my own research like 4 and 5. So as I mentioned, most of them were on leaders and political parties. So Erdogan, for example, had a score of around 10 to 15, 10 in one study, 15 in other, which is not way, but which is more than the scores that I showed, showing that charismatic leaders have a higher propensity of populism than bureaucratic actors. I saw one study on Netanyahu with a score of 18, which is way higher than what we did, because my highest was 7.5-ish, 7 for Egypt. This is like 11 points less than Netanyahu's in that study. So yeah, they've done it, but yeah, I don't think anyone has done it for militaries, which seemed like a good idea, because I was just trying to see their discourse and if they are using these terms, and those 6 terms were something I took from the concept paper, because they were mentioned over and over, like themes of unity, themes of course, people, elite, etc., etc. The first question that you asked was on the themes. Did I look at themes as well? I don't think I did. So what I did was that I made a list of around 20 words, 20 to 30 words for each, and then used that dictionary to see if it is something that shows up within the text. For elite, I had to use slightly more words, because you can see that the score for elite is very less, like 0.56. So I had to increase it to get some score. There were not many references to elite in that, but yeah, I did not thematically looked at it. It was keywords frequency search. But thank you. Your questions were amazing.
Thank you. Now, Hasnan, would you like to read out this online question that we have?
Thank you, Nick. Specific questions is from Azhar to Wasisto, Jati. Do you see that the massive involvement of the military in bureaucratic institutions in Indonesia may deteriorate the decision-making agenda through more technocratic ways? Jati?
Thank you.
Yes.
Could I answer directly or?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Please do.
Okay, thank you for the question. So I believe if the massive involvement of the military remain to continue, may deteriorate the decision-making agenda. Why? Because there is no point to arguing with the military officer in the bureaucracy, because they just only use one direct command structure rather than making consensus between technocrats. So I think this could affect could affect the way technocratic paradigm should be frontline in the decision making. So that the first point. The second point, I think the use of military into bureaucracy institution is to make sure that the instruction from the top until the grassroots should be in the one tone or one languages, because I believe that the current Prabowo administration impose the loyalty and also the hierarchy. So that's why he doesn't like to be offended by the critics and maybe the opposing argument. So that's why he put some high-ranking military officer in the some ministerial positions, such as I mentioned earlier, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Agriculture, and also some ministry that currently hold or maybe run the current Prabowo populist flagship. So that's my answer, Hasnan.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions? Yes. Oh, better get you the microphone.
Thank you. So my name's Elliot. I'm from Monash and RMIT. I just had a question for Omer and Faisal, if that's okay. A question for Faisal is, I was interested, in your opinion, what does the future look like for Pakistan's hybrid regime? Like in the, I guess in terms of like the ongoing consequences of Imran Khan's populism, like, yeah, I guess what does it look like for them? And for Omer, I was just interested, just for the case selection, like why Thailand? I was quite, like, I kind of thought, especially with your, I guess what you were looking at, I wondered if like, you know, Myanmar might fit nicely into some of those metrics you're measuring. And I was also interested in the low elite discourse in the Egyptian army, and if you had any ideas why that was. I kind of figured like maybe they are the elite, but yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, thank you for asking this question, because for my interviews, I have answered, I have interviewed like 6 people. 2 were professors of history and 2 were journalists and 2 were YouTube influencers who were working for Imran Khan. So I asked this question and I couldn't inculcate that in my presentation because of lack of time, and I thought to put those in the paper that I am writing. So all of them are, just one of them said that Imran Khan is not coming back, but the 5 of them were in the opinion that he will definitely come back, but when the hybrid regime will need him, only then he will come back. So in the context of Pakistan, they kind of reaffirmed our findings that in Pakistan, if there is a clash between hybrid regime and populist leader, hybrid regime wins. So in the future of Imran Khan is, according to the respondents of my interview, is also depends on the mood of the establishment there. Thank you so much.
So, Omer, I was thinking you and I have talked about this issue. I've asked you before, and if I can, what you thought would happen to Imran, if you thought he would be out of jail at some point, and who knows, in exile next or back running the country. I wonder what your opinion on that is now.
As to whether after he gets out of.
Well, like, yeah, after or if, I suppose, even. So.
Okay. So I'll start by answering Elliot's 2 questions. The first was on the case selection. Case selection was, can I say it was slightly random? Pakistan, because I'm a Pakistani, I'm studying Pakistan for my PhD as well. Egypt seemed a very good fit, but then I love Thailand. I love the country. I've been there, love the culture, love the malls, love the beaches. And I have seen how their military is extremely powerful. So it seemed a very interesting thing, a country that I sort of like as well. And then I wanted to study, because when I was in Thailand, I saw how political it was. I could see the signs of the monarchy, of the military. some movements as well that were there. People seem very political on issues like on various issues on homophobia, on misogyny. So just I'm fascinated by Thai-ness in Thailand. So yeah, and the second question was on low elites. So I think the only thing I can think of is that these actors who we are calling as bureaucratic populist actors who espouse endogenous discourse, they sometimes position themselves as above politics. So they are sort of outside that realm where these petty politicians are fighting amongst each other. That's what the Pakistani military 100% does. So they say we are not necessarily neutral, but above it. Yeah, we're professional, resilient, guarding the polity as opposed to fighting. But if you've read the concept paper, a lot of these things are just said or not said, but the actions are very different. So these militaries are taking actions through these accountability drives, these things that purge politicians. They don't show up in discourse, but they're happening. But yeah, perhaps they're shrewd, very smart to not say all of this stuff in their official discourses, which comes through press releases and is read by the world. But they are as brutal as it gets, if I may use that word. Yeah. Now on Imran Khan. I don't know. It seems very, because my opinion of the person has changed over time. I was thinking he would not be able to survive in jail, as a lot of people had said, but it has been around about two years, 2 months. August 2023 was when he was put in jail. I think at some point he needs to understand that in Pakistani politics, which is cyclical, you have to live to fight another day, right? You cannot be like Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and die in jail due to a feud with Ziaul Haq. You should get out, go to the US or the UK. That's Pakistani politicians' favorite places. Live with the goldsmiths if you want to, and do your virtual dharnas, your virtual rallies from England, and build and sort of like save your movement, as opposed to just being in jail. Because right now his main logic is that I'm this nationalistic leader who'd die in jail as opposed to going, which isn't strategic, which sort of goes on my PhD point, which you don't agree with, that Pakistani politics is ideological. Sometimes these people are...
My quarrel is more with probably Kazimoto than you, but that's all right.
Okay. Yeah.
But no, I think it's very...
Excuse me, can I add something in the discussion?
Please.
Yeah, so there is a very famous columnist, Nadeem Farooq Paracha. He's writing for like 30 years on Pakistani politics in Dawn. And he says that Imran Khan is self-destructive. He's so much egoistic that he would rather die, but he will save his ego, because he was a sportsman and then he married a very rich woman, and then he in our language we call it stubborn, ziddi. Yeah. So he will not leave his stance. So some people call this the same thing determination, and some people call the same thing being very, very egoistic. So both. And so in the case of Imran Khan, Nadeem Farooq Paracha was in the view that he is self-destructive, but there is a professor of history in Quaid-e-Azam University. He said that he will revive. So journalists have different views, and the political scholars or historians have different view.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I've read that Nadeem Farooq Paracha absolutely abhors Imran Khan. I think he called him self-destructive because Imran Khan, primarily because Imran Khan likes to sniff a certain white powder, and that's about it.
I see. I've heard such things, actually, from you. I wonder, can Imran's movement survive him, though? it's his, I mean, populism is often linked to the sort of cult of personality, very personalized movements. But Imran Khan's movement, can it survive him? Can anyone take over his sort of party? Or does it die if he dies? What does that tell us about populism?
Yeah. So Imran Khan's sons, they are very rarely shown on the media, but whenever they are shown on the media, on the Instagram, on Facebook, their pictures are liked by millions. So people in Pakistan, the politics is hereditary. People father then son. So people are emotionally kind of waiting for his son to come and save his father. So being a Pakistani citizen, not a student, being a Pakistani general citizen, I think that people are waiting for his sons to come over. And and in Pakistan, your political party is saved only when someone from your family takes it over.
Right.
So I think there is no other option, no Asad Umar and no, I don't know whether you will agree or not, but I think no other person can lead PTI as Imran Khan or his sons maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
The dynastic politics. Yes, Steve.
Thank you, everyone. Wars, threats, and fears are beloved by authoritarian regimes, loved by hybrid regimes, loved by populist regimes. We've seen Trump even playing around with the 1812 war as a sort of excuse for attacking the enemy within through ICE and arrests and all the rest of it. When I look at the Modi quiver of tactics, he's added another arrow to the quiver, and that is the Sindoor matter and also terrorism. The Indians have suddenly become the world's leading campaigners against terrorism. And in most countries, war, threat, fear, it's a new version of the other. It works very well. So my question is, in terms of Pakistan, with the problems on both the Afghan border and also between Pakistan and India, how much does the current regime benefit from the war, threat, fear theme?
I think that the current regime has not benefited it as the army has benefited from the conflicts at the border, because Imran Khan struggled against the sacred cow. It kind of unmasked the involvement of army in Pakistani politics, right? So people who used to love army, who used the girls in universities, because I was a university lecturer, so I know that girls used to marry an army man, a handsome guy in military uniform. But Imran Khan was the person that made some of the army individuals ashamed of wearing the uniform. So army, which was like a very heroic figure before 2020, maybe the image declined because of the corruption of army was revealed and so much like that. So when there was conflict on border and Pakistan and India had a war last year, the army ship which was sinking in terms of popularity, it started floating again. So I think the conflict at the border is benefiting the image of Pakistan army a lot, not the current political regime.
I add, in terms of locals in the West, we don't really think very often of the key role of the army. And if we look at Indonesia, where one of the things that did come up today of the army historically has been a powerful economic force in Indonesia. I would have liked more on that. But as I said, when you're in the West and you think about populism in different parts of the world, the key role of the army is a special sort of elite, and an educated elite, and an organised elite, and a business elite. So I just mentioned all that because, and you'll all know where it fits better than I do. But it's interesting, I think, to give the army more prominence in all of those societies, in our analysis of the politics of populism and also the economics of the society.
Yes. Do we have any more questions? We have a little bit of time, don't we?
Can I say something?
Please do.
raising my electronic hand. I am Dr. Muhammad Shaban Rafi. I'm a professor of English at Rifa International University. I've been listening to Omer and Faiza talks, and I was just thinking about to reflect on populism. I personally think populism is a discursive construction, a kind of a genre of communication from the linguistic point of view or from a language point of view. And it doesn't remain as a discrete, as Faiza said, one movement, Zulfikar Bhutto, and then it transferred to Ziaul Haq, and then to Imran Khan. I personally think populism exists deep down in every politician and in every person. It's not about elite or the people or the poor. So populism is a perspective which very much is rooted on the positionality of any populist. So those who are not in the government, they become populist, because this is a very robust slogan to get popular, especially in Pakistan, because Pakistan is a very special and unique discourse. So I personally think army as an institution is doing great job, is a very disciplined. But apart from few individuals who would like to seek the benefit of it, and we may not blanketly criticize the whole institution. These are just my thoughts, and I don't have any question, but if anybody would like to comment, thank you.
Yes, please do.
Thank you so much, Pakistan Army Zindabad. I was just telling you what the journalist and the other scholars are telling, and what I have observed after the Imran Khan's case in Pakistan. Thank you so much.
Now, that was actually a very good point by Shaban. And I've heard the argument before that don't malign the entire institution because of a few individuals. Unfortunately, I don't buy into it because the top brass is doing what it is doing. And yeah, it's not good. There's this capture of so many things in Pakistan by the military. Starting from our pizza joints to restaurants to cement to houses to banks, and it goes on and on and on. If that isn't elite capture, then what is? There's a role of the army. It should be there in context of the regional security situation or whatever, but their very overt political role is something that should be criticized. And this idea that it's just a few individuals and not the entire army itself does not make sense. I'm not saying the entire 600,000 of the Pakistani military is somehow bad or corrupt. They're of course not, but the decisions are ultimately taken by 12, 13 corps commanders, and then the chief of army staff. And they more often than not think about the institution than the citizens.
Thank you. Do we have any further comments or questions, or is there a follow-up comment or question to that?
I just want to, not to counter Omer's point. This is very important, point he has raised, like not the entire institution, but of course there are few individuals who are taking the decision, and they in a way represent the entire institution. I agree. But Omer, don't you think there is a social system, there is a social order that exists in everywhere, including in Australia or United States of America? So that social order is in a way to unite people, to achieve stability, or to communicate certain meanings. And if that social order is not followed by the populace in general, I personally think that can create unrest in countries like Pakistan and elsewhere. Yes, in case of Pakistan, as I mentioned, it's a unique case, mainly because here the criticism is very open. Here communication is very blunt as compared to Western discourses where communication is masked or criticism is masked in a way you do not understand what's going on. But in our case, this is very different. So I personally think the concept of deep state or bureaucratic populism or military establishment populism, they are prevailing everywhere in the world in one way or another, whether this is a military government or there is not existence of a military government. But military has its influence in politics, in economy, and in other, institutional matters of a country. Thank you.
Thank you. Omer, would you like to respond briefly?
Yes, very briefly. I think it's a very cyclical, dialectical, perhaps paradoxical point that Pakistan has a system, and that system needs to be protected or sheltered for there to be less chaos. But unfortunately, the way I look at it is that system is causing repression. That system is causing violence to people, let's say, living in KPK, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Balochistan, South Punjab, some parts of Sindh, and all in all. So, army has a role within the system. That role is defense, and they should be restrained. They should be restrained, mitigated to just that role. I understand it has been 70, 75 years since they've been part of the Pakistani politics, and it'll take a long time for that to quell. And these points, which are given in very good intention, as given by Shaban, because if you go against the army, it causes unrest. But unfortunately, their position is causing a lot of unrest to a lot of people, and it's not just chaos or unrest; it's actual violence as well. And I hope Pakistan can have a what in yes, Stephen is an artist. I'm thinking of liberty leading the people, like a Marianne, who could change Pakistan somehow.
All right, thank you. Do we have any final questions? We have a very short period of time. I wonder if the Indonesian scholars would like to talk a little bit about the role of the military in Indonesia, past and present, and whether it can play whether it's playing its proper role at the moment, or it's moving into areas you think it perhaps shouldn't be, given its history as having played a positive role at times beyond defence. I wonder if you could speak to that at all. Under Prabowo, is the military playing too much of a role, or can it play a positive role in development still? What are your thoughts?
Maybe Wasisto will answer this part.
Thank you, Nick, for the. Is it comment?